2015. Been working on it ever since. These are the plans that I'm hoping to submit in the not too distant future. But due to the current coronavirus restrictions, I was going to have an open day, but I'm now thinking that I'll have a virtual tour to give people an insight into what has been going on in this building for the last 5 years. I hope you agree that it's an amazing building inside. So, my idea is most of this frontage will be coming down and there'll be new shop fronts with new windows above, hopefully in a sort of recreation of what was there originally. It was originally built in 1895 on the site of the old timber market hall that burnt down in 1870. From then it had various different uses. 1916 it was Palladium Cinema, and that ran until the late 70s when it turned into Crystal Tea's nightclub, which many of the local residents will know and love, and Concord Squash Club. There were also numerous other things that happened within the building. Albert Hall was built originally as an event space and became all sorts of things before it became Crystal Tea's nightclub. I think I'll take you around to the other side of the building, which is down the street, and it'll give you an impression of how big this building actually is inside. I'll see you around the corner. So we've now come to the other end of the building, which is very close to the promenade, and some people that may remember the Bay drama series a few months ago, and this was the scene where the policeman came to his demise. If we come through, and if you can see the original Queen's Market 1895 in the brickwork, but a grossly altered building over the years. This was originally the entrance to the market hall. The building once had access through from the promenade, but now this access is no longer belonging to the building and it's owned by somebody else. So as you can see, the building has been very badly converted in the past. There were 4 flats in here, 1 big one and 2, and a big one at the bottom. My idea is new shop fronts and a big new entrance which goes into the market hall, and a very sympathetic restoration to the brick facade with new windows going in to remove all the plastic ones. Before we go inside, I just want to give a little explanation to how I came to own this building and the vision that I have for it going forward. I think it's important for me to explain the journey I've been on through my life, to the reasoning behind why I want this to be let out, hopefully as a not-for-profit organisation with the benefit of the town.
I grew up in the area going to Morecambe High School. I struggled throughout school and only achieved 2 GCSEs, one being art and another being design. I'd always believed that to be successful you had to go to university, which was obviously an issue because there was no way I could get onto an A-level course. So with the help of my art teacher and my outdoor ed instructor, I managed to convince the A-level department at Morecambe to take me on to do 2 years of GCSE resits and A-level art, which I did and passed my A-level art, managed to get into university, and it was only at university where it was discovered that I was severely dyslexic and dyscalculic. Dyscalculia is the maths version of dyslexia. So I managed to get a degree. There didn't actually come to anything job-wise. So I delivery driver job after that, and then eventually my wife managed to get a job back up north and we moved up. We bought a house and I renovated that, which was very satisfying to me, and I realised there was a real passion for fixing up old property. So when my granny left me some money, it just seemed the obvious progression to go and buy property. So started looking, and I found this row of shops, which the image is now. It was an old solicitor's that had converted the 7 shops into one big building, and I converted them back into 7 little retail units. These retail units were let out at £150 a month each, and I still own them today, and the rent's been the same for the last 20 years. So after the shop units, I moved on to buying big terraced houses in West End of Morecambe, converting them into family homes and selling them on. The last house I was doing, I came into Morecambe one day. I knew the nightclub on the Victoria Street was up for sale, seen it on the internet, and I just happened to walk round the back, looked up and said Queen's Market, and it got me thinking, is it the whole building that's for sale? And I walked round the side and I looked up and I saw that there was the remnants of the lantern roof. I thought, this is potentially a really special building. But the problem was it was only 2 days before the auction. So I went to see my dad and said, what do you think? And he's a typical Yorkshireman, and I was expecting him saying, don't be so stupid. But he actually said, if you can get it near the guide price, have a go. So I went to the auction and I was the only bidder, and I got it for the guide price. I couldn't start work straight away on it because I still had a property that I was working on. So every morning I'd come down for an hour to don my hard hat with a light on the top because it was pitch black in the building, and I'd spend an hour measuring so that I could do my plans to submit the planning permission when I was ready. So with a budget of £150,000 from the sale of the house and my wife's part-time teaching job and the rent for my shops to live on, I set about on a 5-year adventure to finish this building. Now we've come inside the building, I think you can see from the amazing roof structure what a special building this really is. And it's one of the things that's kept me going for the last 5 years. Working alone, I come in every morning and I just look up to the roof structure and I think it makes me smile and it keeps me going. My original plan was to convert the front on Victoria Street into a shop unit, do the 3 flats in the back, which had planning permission in '95, back into flats, and then would have the ability to borrow money to finish the middle, which I'd seen as a selection of shop units very similar to the ones that I have on West Street. But consulting the planners quite early on, I was advised that due to the condition of the flats in the rear, they no longer had planning permission. So with this in mind and all the regulations that would have come with putting new flats in with new planning permission, I had to change my mind. So I'd been given some advice to go and have a look at Altrincham Market near Manchester, which we did. I was just astounded by it. I couldn't believe the vibrance and how it had turned the whole town around. And I came back, looked at my building and thought, this is what I need to do. Morecambe might not be ready for it, but give it a chance. So now I was going to have to renovate the whole building as a whole without any chance of being able to borrow money. So with that in mind, I've had to recycle and reclaim as many materials as possible to save funds. Obviously, plasterboard has to be bought new, and there's over 1,000 sheets of that. There are costs of glass, which obviously I couldn't reclaim, but the doors behind were from Aldi, when they knocked the local Aldi down, and the glass panels. The cast iron columns came from a house that was demolished on Thornton Road, and throughout the building, every single bit of it has a story of being reclaimed from one place or another. But obviously there are things in the building that need to be done officially, and
most of these I've left exposed. You know, the column there is going to have structural engineers to come and tell me what needs to be done to make it secure for the new floor that I'm intending fitting across there, because upstairs I'm hoping to have a food hall very similar to the one at lots of the other markets in the big cities. So, on with the virtual tour of the building. As we go round, I'll give you an idea of my idea of what will go into the building. This is just my idea, it may be somebody else's idea. It depends who takes the building on. If it comes as I want it to be, which is a not-for-profit organisation, take it on, where all the profit goes back into helping businesses start up, then all the better. But if not, I'll be letting it out to a company that will take it on, and I have it in my head that they may just rip everything out that I've done, which is a possibility. But here we go. So, behind me is the back Crescent Street where we were earlier, where the roller shutter doors were, and I envisage a bakery and a patisserie on each side to draw people in. The smell of the bakery wafting down the street to draw people in. So on the ground floor, I imagine market stalls with an experience-led retail sort of theme, with creativity and a real buzz about it. Similar sort of thing that you get in London and big cities. One of the hardest things in the building was to actually figure out how to get upstairs and still have a access ramp, because it's 50 centimetres floor difference, so it needed to be 10 metres in. So what I came up with, eventually after lots of thinking, was the ramp going round, with the stairs that go round the corner, where there will be more stalls coming out and then up, which I think has actually worked very well with another little unit underneath. So as we come through, there's a toilet there, urinal here, which I see having it as a ranch house theme. The reason for this is it's a bit of a dead space, and I'd like to have a little display about what the building was used as when it was a cinema. Originally, as a cinema, all the glass was all blacked out, but over the years the holes appeared in the ceiling, and because the cinema towards the end only played cowboy films, it became known as the ranch house, and the holes in the ceiling were called the bullet holes from the movies. And then as we come along, there'll be an access for all toilet here, which will have a adult changing bed and a hoist. And then as we come up, we have a possible separate unit. These were originally squash courts. There's another one matching the other side. When I bought the property, I envisaged this as a perfect place for a climbing wall due to how deep it is. But there is already a climbing wall within the area, so I had to start thinking of what other uses it could be. I could have put another floor in to make it more market stalls, but I thought I'd leave it for the prospective tenant to decide. But one idea that I've had, which I really like the idea of, is some sort of adventure science play area for all ages, with an environmental sort of theme that's linked to how we shop, maybe connected to the Eden project when that comes, but something that young and old can do on the wet days that often happen in Morecambe, but give an educational enjoyment. So here we've got another 2 units which have been made out of the old changing rooms from the squash club. I know I said that I've worked fully alone on this project for the last 5 years, but there was one time that I had to call in assistance, and that came from my family, due to the squash court glass here, which had to be turned upside down because I didn't want the white lines at the bottom, and the weight of it, it was beyond me, and I just thought they were going to get smashed. So the one time the help was needed was very greatly appreciated by me from my family. Another problem that I've had throughout the building is the dyscalculia that I have causes major headaches for me when you climb the scaffolding, measure something, say plasterboard, you climb back up the scaffolding and you find out that actually that 6 was a 9 and the board doesn't fit, and you have to climb down, do it all again and find a new home for the piece of board that you've cut wrong. So we're now at the Victoria Street end of the property. This is where the main entrance on this side of the building for the market hall will be. I envisage this space just as a meeting area with some chairs just to chill out, and then this will be one big unit. I really see it being used as a not zero waste store. I think it would be really good with the new shop windows flooded with light. Continuing with the recycling scheme, the concrete blocks, which I've cleaned up thousands of within the property, have all been reused. These ones are here ready to block this area up to make the area there into a separate access for the 2 squash courts that I showed you earlier. The pile of timber here, which was the false ceiling from what was Oscar's bar, really good timber actually, is going to be repurposed and it's going to become the new windows at the front of Victoria Street. As from the plan that I've shown from the outside, there'll be another doorway here which matches the one on the other side, which will bring you into this self-contained space, which the entrance to the 2 squash courts are here that could be multiple uses. So now we're at the entrance to what was Crystal Tea's nightclub. A lot of people in Morecambe will remember it from either falling down or being thrown down these stairs. It's quite infamous back in the day. In the renovations, I found the original door that would have been for Albert Hall, although in a bad way I can repair it. Also, there is the remains of the original Albert Hall mosaic, which I'll keep, but most of it's gone. Another thing that people who watch the Bay drama series who may also recognise is where the policeman was stood. The policeman was stood at the bottom of the stairs and the property developer was at the top of the stairs. So as we go up, I've got a little display of things that I found in the building. So hopefully, if I have some connection still to the building once it's been let, I'd really like to have a history wall in the corridor downstairs where the squash court glass was, depicting the history of the building and the array of items that I found. This is only a fraction of some of the items I found. Also on the stairs that we just came up from, the original Crystal Tea stairs, I'd like to dedicate that just to the Crystal Tea's nightclub, memories of the scene back from the 70s up to when it closed. Another thing I found when I discovered the old door was the original broken glass. In the first lockdown, I took it home in a big box and did my own little jigsaw. But some things are beyond my repair. But I'll keep it as a display. So just a quick look at some of the things I found. Obviously, Noel Edmonds. Some people of Morecambe may not remember the things that went on with Blobbyland in good light, but hopefully this won't be another Blobbyland project. One thing that I really would like to show is these 2 young girls who won't be so young now, probably about 4 years age, in 1954. They were
displayed for New Trendwear, which operated here as a manufacturer of buoyancy swimming costumes, and they were tested at the end of the stone jetty. So I don't know whether you'd seen the names, Jennifer and Pamela. So if they're still around the area, I'd be very interested to know their history of, New Trendwear and what actually happened in this building as a manufacturer of clothing. Other things that mainly found under the floor, because when it was converted into the squash club and nightclub, most of the things were just ripped out then. So these were found underneath the floor of Crystal Teas. I just think it's important social history for the building. So the front of the property, I see this as a little office, box office space for the event space, which I'll show you in a minute. But to the front of the property with the new sunlit rooms, I see a selection of office creative workspaces with its own kitchen and toilet facilities, so it's totally self-contained with no access to the rest of the building. Through here we've got what was Crystal Teas nightclub. It looks very different to how I found it. Obviously there was a big bar here, and what I remember as a child was a big space, well, teenager, was a big space, but actually the dance floor was very small. So I see this space as being a big event space. The reason for the doors is it could either be used with the catering side, or it could be closed up and have its standalone space. It could be used for a variety of different uses, from art exhibitions to art house films. I see rake seating. It's just an event space. So as we come into this space, which was the original market hall, the idea is it's going to have street food stalls, a coffee bar, communal seating, but obviously I need to have some way of getting from the event space to the eating space. This provided another headache because obviously it needed another 10-metre ramp. So the only solution I could find was to encapsulate the coffee bar, which is in this area, and have ramped access at this side, but a stepped access at this side. Obviously there's going to have to be some sort of explanation that there's a step at the end to stop people falling down, but the ramp will be the other side when the floor's filled in. But I couldn't have a ramp this side because it would interfere with the coffee bar, the food stalls. Although the food stalls are very small, there is a very large kitchen area, wash-up area through this area, which is underneath the platform in the event space. So I've tried to keep a rhythm of the building. So the colour scheme is all throughout the building. The crisscross railings that I made at home every night, knocking in 2,500 rivets, picks up the crisscross on the ironwork. Talking about the ironwork, the actual manufacturer of the ironwork is quite a renowned company called A. Handyside from Derby, and they made lots of different stations and market halls around the country and the world. The old coal holes, which I've put in as a feature to separate the waiting area and the top of the stairs, were actually in the road outside when the council did the work repaving. I asked if I could salvage the coal holes, and I was going to make them into stools, but I decided they'd probably be a bit uncomfortable and they'd probably fit better there. Keeping on the theme of reclaiming, the colourful woodwork underneath the countertop came from the swing boats outside the Midland Hotel from many years ago. I think they were there a long time, so they will have had caused many joy for many people. The floor, that was the old squash court floor from down below. But the painting that some of you may remember was outside on the front of the building, and when they asked me whether it was all right to put the graffiti bird on the front, originally they wanted to put it onto the brickwork, which I thought was a real shame that it would have been destroyed when I took the front down. So I asked if I bought the boards, could I keep the artwork? And I didn't know what the artwork was going to be, and I just love it. I think it fits there perfectly. So the reason why I took it down was to put it up there. I see this room could be a micro bar or gym bar. Again, the windows were reclaimed from the local insurance brokers across the road that was having a new shop front, repurposed in here, toughened safety glass, so saving it going for landfill again. And as we come through here, we've got more seating, another access toilet and standard toilet. I don't know whether you can see, but the glass panel over in the corner with the two aeroplanes on, that was originally in that opening. So it must have been put in sort of wartime in the cinema, because it had been bricked up from at least 1960, looking at the wallpaper that was behind it. But although very naive, I'm hoping to have it on the wall. Anyway, as we come round here, I feel this is the best view of the entire building. I just love the fact that the ironwork isn't high Victoriana. It's very basic, but has a real presence to it. And this is what makes me smile every morning. The hope for this building is to find somebody or some group that will take it on as a whole as a not-for-profit organisation. The idea is the building that would be run as a start-up business scheme, a bit like an apprenticeship for self-employed, because what I've realised in the months that I've been thinking about this video is how my life has changed. And when I was at school, if it hadn't have been for the art teacher and my outdoor ed instructor to see the potential in me, there would have been no way of me getting the degree. So you leave education and your ties with the tutors that saw the potential that you had to be a great artist, restaurateur, events manager, whatever it is, are lost. And you go out into the world and you don't find that job where the employer sees your potential too and nurtures it and helps it grow for you to be successful in whatever it is. And you have to work to provide for your family or for yourself. So that potential may have been lost, and you'll look back in years to come and say, why didn't I become a jewellery maker or great chef? My idea is for people to come in to this building with an idea, and as long as the idea fits in with the ethos of the organisation will do whatever it can to provide support, whether that's from the tutors that you had or from other businesses that have gone through the organisation and have gone off into the wider community, into the town, and they come back in and give advice and help to grow and nurture the passion and creativity that could be missed in people's lives. Finally, thank you for coming on this virtual tour with me. Hopefully it was interesting, and hopefully I'll see you in this building when it's all up and running and as vibrant as I hope it will be. And I just want to say thank you very much to my family who have heard, all they've heard for the last 5 years is when the building's finished. Thank you.